Khorne Skullcannon is a unit of many beautiful contradictions. On the one hand, it's artillery, but it also has the mobility of a chariot. Of course, artillery chariots are a unit subtype in the game, fairly uncommon, but there are a few others. This one in particular, though, has at the same time limited ammunition at only 12 base, but also technically has unlimited ammunition because it can regenerate more while fighting in melee. Again, though, that kind of juxtaposes to that long-range shooting, 380 range with decent armor-piercing. Single target damage, also deals a little bit of explosive, and has flaming damage as well. Being a Khorne demon, it's got a bit of physical resistance, also has Gore Feast, so while it's regenerating ammunition in melee, it also regenerates HP. It's definitely a unit that's a little bit odd to use because you have to use it both in melee and at range to get good effect from it, which means definitely active micro a lot of the time. This replays from Koops. He's up against Rocket Ruse, Tomb Kings, of course, and for Khorne here, Valkia leading the way. We've got some Marauders mixed in with two elite exalted Bloodletters of Khorne. We've also got a single warrior in here somewhere. Yeah, over here on the far left flank. Some elite Knights of the Brazen Throne there, with the Regiment of Renowned Skull Crushers, and some Furies already swooping in to occupy these skeleton archers. We've got 3 of them, some Tomb Guards protecting the back line, lots of skeleton spears and skeleton warriors. Kepler Guard in the center, Cetra leading the way. The Casket of Souls already been raining some damage on those elite infantry. And some Sepulchral Stalkers, the Eyes of the Desert, Regiment of Renown to protect the back line. We'll keep a nice wide view as the Spear Sleipnir goes off in the back line. After some Skeleton Archers also deals some damage to the Furies. Furies might have been able to win that regardless. Arguably should use that on the Tomb Guard purely from a value sense, but tactically you definitely want to get rid of those Archers to make sure they don't deal damage to your Exalted Bloodletters here. Knights of the Brazen Throne also crash in, and it's an all-hands Khorne engagement. Checking in with the Skullcannon, you can see that it is shooting those Kepler Guard. It's able to bleed away models there fairly efficiently. Of course, Cetra also has weakness to fire damage, as do all Tomb King's Lords, so Skullcannon shooting at him directly is going to be a great use for it. Looks like some Warhounds momentarily forgotten there. Hopefully they'll get into combat in just a second, but Incantation of Cursed Blades is going to pop. Valkia thinks about diving in the back line on that casket, but the Sepulchral Stalkers are there to protect, so instead she comes to the front line to fight against Cetra, which is definitely the right call. His weapon strength buffs are being counteracted now by that Demon Shield. The blinded effect also significantly debuffing Valkia's stats, at least temporarily. Once that wears off, though, she will be a fairly decent combatant. Much better attack and defense stats than Cetra on the thing there. Once again, though, we do see that blinded effect is fairly solid from the Wrath of Petra, but backline, Knights of the Brazen Throne, oh my sweet goodness, they just absolutely delete those spears. Wow, very impressive charge, just massacring some skeleton spears, and then immediately overrunning into the lines here. So despite the fact that Khorne's rush is fairly small, they're still able to disrupt the Tomb King's formation and get into combat and really do some significant damage here. This unit of Exalted Bloodletters, despite getting shredded by bows, is already up to 104 kills. Value-wise is pretty poor, but look at this positioning here. Now the Skullcannons run all the way up and around. This is, again, utilizing that mobility, and now has a different angle to try and fire in. I'm not sure what exactly it's shooting. The Eyes of the Desert, or again, Cetra, are probably going to be the best targets right now, but let's get in close. Watch as the Kepler Guard duke it out with these Regiment of Renown Exalted Bloodletters. You can see the fire from the caskets raining in there, trying to equalize this fight. Cetra also, this bad cat breath there. Looks like we've got the Summon du Shabti in the area, with Valkia also fighting once again. Nice Horn of Khorne did not hit the warriors here, but it does hit the Hellforge hosts, and they're going to be absolutely shredding those Kepler Guard. In other positions, though, Khorne's definitely having leadership issues. The Marauders coming back from route now. These Exalted Bloodletters are crumbling. The Skullcannon just riding around, dodging shots, and tanking some damage. Has a decent amount of ammunition, still 7 shots left. A few of them might have been regenerated already. But the mobility and the fact that it's a chariot will mean that it's very survivable. And oh man, the Knights of the Brazen Throne. They do connect here, although I believe that the charge defense of the Sepulchral Stalkers, their anti-large armor piercing damage, the fact that Knights of the Brazen Throne just took a huge amount of damage there on the charge, oh, and of course Tomb Guard Halberds, all stacked against them. As they pull away even, they are at risk of getting shot once again, so very rough situation for the Knights of the Brazen Throne. Tomb King's archers are also crumbling. They're not long for this world, which is good. Tactically, they've been gotten rid of, but at the same time, Hellforge Host is also quite low, so we'll see. Right now, the Skull Cannon riding around all hot and dirty, distracting Cetra at the moment, but of course, still getting that little bit of self-healing. As long as it can just fight like low-tier infantry here, like these Skeleton Spheres, it should be able to regenerate some HP. Doesn't have that much HP overall, but 110 armor is fairly solid. Only 18 melee defense. I mean, similar to like the Steam Tank or most artillery chariots do have fairly poor melee defense. But Cetra getting another explosion there. Try to cycle charge. The one pick of the warrior is proving to be quite solid. Their armor and leadership and everything else above the Marauders just helps them hold out in a situation like this that much longer, even when getting attacked by Cetra. Blessed Blade of Ptra goes off, though, and it looks like the Curse just went off as well, which is going to do some fairly significant damage to all these units in that AoE. Skull Cannon continuing to ride around, get into melee once again, get back out. Still has plenty of ammunition to work with, and can pull away here and keep shooting. Speaking of shooting, the Eyes of the Desert, they're fairly dangerous. I mean, Valkia, due to her small size, can honestly avoid a lot of that damage. Depending on Demon Shield as well, she might be able to just completely, shrug off a few volleys if caught out. But here, you can see the Skull Cannon working in open space, and in general, the lack of mobility for the Tomb Kings does mean that this Skull Cannon is more or less free to operate with impunity. The Eyes of the Desert are not fast enough, certainly at only 50 speed, 68 speed on the Skull Cannon, so I'm not sure if even, and obviously, like, light cavalry, like Nahakara Horsemen, could catch this thing, but I'm not sure that even the heavy, for the Necropolis Knights, I forget how much speed they have. We'll have to check that after the fact, but the Skull Cannon, Knights of the Brazen Throne come to distract momentarily. They're going to immediately get shattered, but not before Valkia can pop in and tap in, if you will. Skull Cannon going to continue shooting. Right now, it's just blasting these Tomb Guard, which is definitely a good call. I don't know. I might still be focusing it on Cetra, just trying to finish him off due to his leadership, but at the same time, these Halberd models are fairly threatening, and Cetra at this point, with the low amount of HP he has, is not that threatening. Like, honestly, Valkia, unless she makes a significant mistake, should be able to finish him off. Let's see how much HP he has. Yeah, just a bit over 2,000 HP there, 3,400 on Valkia. So definitely plenty of HP to work with, and obviously the much better sustained combat stats do weigh heavily in her favor. And the weapon strength with the wounds now, especially 20 bonus versus large versus only bonus versus infantry, which I guess on Cetra does technically apply to Valkia, but you can see here that the Skull Cannon used up the last of its ammunition shooting at the Tomb Guard. Now it's going to have to do some fancy, I was going to say footwork, but that seems inappropriate. Some fancy driving, riding, I'm not really sure. Anyway, just, cycle charging here, charging in, doing some attacks on the Tomb Guard, getting back out before you take too much damage. Allow these Marauders to come in and screen momentarily, and then rinse and repeat, and continue that process until Valkia and Chariot have done enough. Chariot, of course, can come, get a couple shots, pull back out. One shot there, interrupted line of sight by the Marauders, is not going to be able to find it. A little bit of a dummy shot animation there. But let's see, could pop that one shot after Cetra here, or after the Eyes of the Desert, but it looks like he's staying dedicated, trying to finish off those Tomb Guard, and a nice side shot there, hits multiple models, does a substantial amount of damage, and of course, Skull Cannon is a cannon in the sense that the projectiles move in more or less a straight line, and they have a tendency to pass through models as well, as you saw there. But let's focus in on Valkia. She's currently getting circle beaten by these Eyes of the Desert. Incantation of Cursed Blades is going to buff up their weapon strength, but when you actually look at it, they only have 34 melee attack. Since Valkia counts as infantry, that bonus versus large will not apply. 52 melee defense is too high for them to really make super consistent contact. Besides that fact, these models are fairly large. If you kind of take an overhead view here, it's hard to see now because they're not actually surrounding her, but yeah, I mean, maybe like 3 or 4 of them can be in base contact with Valkia at the same time. Her small size is definitely benefiting her massively this particular point in time. But let's see, she still is taking some damage, and right now, focus the attack order on Cetra means that she didn't really do as much as she could have to the Eyes of the Desert, but manages to pop in the air before the Eyes of the Desert start shooting. It's great. She's going to dodge the majority of those shots, or almost all of them, or all of them, actually. And Incantation of Curse Blades once again for Cetra, but Valkia manages to get a clutch little rear charge here. Demon Shield is active, so even if Cetra were to do an attack animation, it's not going to do much. He goes into Crumbling. That's going to be it for him. We check in with the Skull Cannon. It has been playing bumper cars with the casket, trying to regenerate ammunition. While doing so, the casket, landing last few shots on its warriors and marauders in the distance, has done a significant amount of damage. 166 kills, 1,400 damage value, so definitely paid for itself. But with Cetra down, the leadership of the Tomb Kings is obviously going to suffer greatly, and now these two can truly team up, go together at, well, I say go together. As soon as Valkia pops in, tag team style, the Skull Cannon pops out, pulls back, pops a shot. And that's what I love about this thing. In general, I really like hybrid units. When a unit forces you to use it both at melee and ranged throughout a battle, I think it's fun. It rewards good micro and skill and decision making, and the Skull Cannon is definitely one of those units. You don't see it used to this great of effect that often. And here, damage value wise, let's take a look. Just out of curiosity, yeah, 1378 so far, which is pretty good, and we've still got a little bit of time left for it to get some value. Nice little charge there, straight to the Sepulchral Stalkers, which is not at all advisable considering their charge defense and anti-large, but hey, it's just to kind of occupy them, tear up their leadership a little bit, and it's not like they're doing a whole lot of damage back to the Skull Cannon at this point due to their limited model count. I'd actually have to do some testing too with those big sweeping spinning attack animations. Like how many models are actually being contacted, how many hits are they getting. Sometimes it's a little bit strange, you know, with the splash attack targets and number of times animation hits can sometimes end up hitting more times than it was originally intended to. Not really sure here, but regardless, Sepulchral Stalkers are doing some damage, but Skull Cannon managed to survive, get to 2 more shots there. Valkia fighting it out with the Tomb Guards. Very, very close. Balance of power weighing heavily for Khorne. But, yeah, the shooting for the Eyes of the Desert's not... I mean, it is fairly solid armor-piercing damage, but it also has a pretty good non-AP component there. And Skull Cannon just has enough to resist. Does it count as magical damage? Yes, it does. So it would bypass physical resistance, but still. Valkia finishes off that Tomb Guard there. Skull Cannons, again, going to shoot the Tomb Guard. Ooh, right over the head of Valkia there. Didn't quite make contact, but there you go. That's going to be pretty much it. Valkia just flinging a last few Tomb Guard out to their doom. Of course, undead army losses are hilarious sometimes, and then their non-existence. But Skull Cannon, once again, just a beautiful unit. I love the unit model, too, and the sounds, sound design, animations, everything. These guys look like they're having a blast, and you can't deny that. Valkia runs in here, and then that's it. So a Skull Cannon definitely helped carry things there fairly significantly, I would say. Like, without the Skull Cannon in the late game, if everything just has the opportunity to focus on Valkia, I don't know if she ends up carrying as much as she does. She definitely is a very key component of this win. The Knights of the Brazen Throne, although disruption-wise, you know, tactically, it was very nice to have them to kind of break up the Tomb King's formation. Resulted in some other units doing fairly decent, but I mean, actually, when I stop and look at it here, a couple of the Marauders did okay. Maybe one of the Marauders did okay. The Hounds actually got some pretty good value also once they came in the side there, but in general, almost all of the paying for was done by Valkia and the Skull Cannon. The Hellforge hosts also get pretty close, but surprisingly not quite there. Although certainly the kill numbers are quite high. Tactically, you do need to get rid of these skeletons, so that in and of itself is fairly useful. But yeah, definitely very interesting. I would say from Rocket Roo's perspective, it's an interesting build. I think maybe the mobility component is a little bit lacking, but at the same time, I like this kind of defensive. You know, you have some units to protect the casket. Hopefully enough to protect, like, against a very mobile Khorne build. But then again, like a wide mobile Khorne build probably isn't going to have the staying power to grind and melee against this. So definitely an interesting one. You guys will have to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.